Okay, the network is down here, but I'm recording hoping that the local copy will get saved and I can upload when the net is back up. So hoping for the best, here we go. So we are now in the social change, so conclusion of the sustainability principles, visiting the second section, approaching the world, for some concluding remarks. Our future is uncertain and our world is complex, ambiguous and dynamic. Sustainable development thus demands philosophical, theoretical and practical approaches that are not only assisting us in explaining, not expanding, that are not only assisting us in explaining, understanding and improving our sustainability challenges and their symptomatic events, but also fit together to link between the conceptual and the actual. This is the core of sustainability science. How do you practically implement and get on the pathway to sustainable development and stay there? Assuming that the world exists independent of any observer, but that any knowledge we can have about it is constructed in particular social contexts, development becomes a highly subjective and normative concept. I hope you understand what norms are. These are not necessarily rules, even though rules and norms can be the same, but these are accepted social values that are very culture dependent, region dependent, religion dependent sometimes, and so on. So whether you believe in sustainable development as a way out of our impact on the environment can very much be a value-based decision. So it's a normative concept. Development is thus viewed as a preferred expected scenario of change in a set of variables over time from a current to a desired state, and includes purposeful activities to drive or steer this change that we want. Sustainable development is then a development that can be maintained over time and be safeguarded from the impact of negative events and their underlying processes. However, at any point in time, there are an infinite number of possible alternative future scenarios ahead of us. As soon as we can conceive a more positive and still realistic development scenario, we have a tendency to re-evaluate our situation and update our preferred expected scenario accordingly. There are thus no positive risks in sustainability science, only opportunities that most often cause modifications in our expectations of our future. So this is kind of trying to sell you the idea that sustainability is a win-win situation and there are no negative outcomes that can happen. So there is no issue in choosing this as a way forward, right? However, to manage the uncertainty of what real development will happen, we utilize the concept of risk and structure various risk scenarios that potentially could divert us away from our preferred expected future. We talked about the detours and wanting to come back. Assessing and addressing risk scenarios requires first explicitly establishing what is valuable to us and important to protect now and for the future, which in the context of sustainable development includes multiple and often interdependent aspects. This is where normative ideas come in. Who decides what is important and valuable? We already discussed how this can be very observer dependent. Then we analyze what hazards that could initiate events that have the potential to disturb, disrupt or destroy these valuable aspects, how vulnerable they are to the impact of each specific event, and on what capacities we have to address the consequences. How prepared are we in terms of knowing the events that can cause negative impacts and in addressing them. It's important to note that human agency is not only fundamental for determining vulnerability and capacity, but also for influencing most of the different types of hazards known to us. In short, risk is assisting us in managing uncertainty and guiding decisions and actions to maintain development along our preferred expected trajectory. Obviously, this is playing out in a way, let's say climate hazards keep happening, floods, droughts, wildfires, cyclones, sea level rise, whatever, heat waves and so on, extreme rainfall, and Disaster management is a well-established framework now, and every country must have a well-planned national disaster management agency with regional response mechanisms and so on, because this is not something you can overlook, not only for saving lives and property but also for continued economic development, right? So can the disaster risk management and the vulnerability and risk framework we use there be used to also worry about sustainable development and resilience, because resilience then is just going beyond coping with events and building resilience for the future so that you are prepared better for the events when they happen again. You mitigate the impacts because of your preparation and resilience, and you recover quickly because of your resilience. Okay, so many issues of sustainability are complex and difficult to explain, understand, or improve as well, especially as they often involve various factors from across functional sectors, administrative levels, and geographical borders. To grasp this complexity requires constructing models of the parts of our world we are interested in, while including relevant transboundary dependencies. These models are referred to as human environment systems throughout this book to highlight the intrinsic links between nature and society on all levels, and are tools for grasping the dynamics and nonlinear interdependencies that are so prevalent in our world. In general, the descriptor used here as human environment system is what we call Earth system, and now we have geosphere, biosphere, and the anthroposphere, so that we are very much part of the forcing of the geosphere in the biosphere. And here forcing, as we said before, is the perturbation to the energy balance. The incoming solar energy, outgoing thermal energy is balanced, and now human beings are perturbing this balance. So we are now a forcing, because we are taking out fossil fuels from underground and burning them and perturbing the greenhouse gases. We are changing land use in a way that is not natural and creating radiative forcing and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is where the complexity comes in, and this is where we are the integral part of the Earth system with all sorts of interdependencies, which basically means feedbacks. We increase greenhouse gases, temperatures go up because we are reducing the escaping of outgoing thermal energy. Temperature goes up, humidity goes up, weather becomes crazier with extreme rainfall, rapidly intensifying cyclones, glaciers melt, sea level goes up, and so on and so forth, right? So to grasp this complexity requires constructing models of the parts of our world we are interested in, while including relevant transboundary dependencies. These models are referred to as human environment systems throughout this book to highlight the intrinsic links between nature and society on all levels, and are tools for grasping the dynamics and nonlinear interdependencies that are so prevalent in our world. I read it again just to emphasize. Human environment systems include both structural and functional models, which in turn include different types of elements and dependencies, and can be either qualitative or quantitative. Although it's obviously impossible to know any system completely, the goal must be an as holistic a picture as possible. In short, a systems approach is assisting us in grasping the complexity itself. We looked at the Earth system piping diagram, we looked at the various impacts of human activities on the Earth system and feedbacks to our human systems in terms of agriculture, health, and so on and so forth, right? I blanked out there for a minute. So this goes on, so maybe I can split it again into two parts. How long have I gone here? Almost 10 minutes. So let's stop here and split it into another podcast in terms of the social change in the context of approaching the world. Okay, so that was the second section of the book, and here it's in the concluding part. Okay.